Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Dr. Vanessa Rodriguez Barrera, and this is the student panel for El Mes de Mi Gente. This is an event that is basically honoring the Hispanic Heritage Month that is acknowledged nationally. And I'm very pleased to be here with a couple of our own NSC students to be able to ask them about what it means to be Latinx, Chicano or Chicana or Chicanx in this space that we call higher academia. So I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Corona. I am a junior here at NSC. I'm a double major in psych and bio.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Estrada. I am a senior in Nevada State College with a major in psychology and a minor in deaf studies.
Hello, my name is Diego Martinez. This is my sophomore year in Nevada State, and I'm a major in business.
Hello, everyone. I am Vanessa Magaña Pedraza. My major would be nursing sciences, and I have minors in deaf studies and psychology.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. So we'll go ahead and get started into the actual panel, meaning the questions that I have set up for us to discuss. One thing that I did want to kind of take time to acknowledge and to make note of is the fact that thinking back on my experience, right? I wish that I had had something like this, honestly. I've been through the whole education system from K through PhD, and it was not always the case where I got the time to actually sit down and see faces of people that looked like me or people that represented my culture. So I really wanted to take this time because I do believe that sharing our stories is powerful and impactful. I remember thinking when, for example, I went to graduate school and I could see the student population and how lonely I felt sometimes, right? Thinking of who all my professors were and thinking, where are all the Latinos? My background is specifically in neuroscience. So within the STEM field, right, there's not that many Latinos compared to other groups. So in essence, I really did just want to take the time to honor all of you, make your faces known, and hopefully there are other students on the other side of this and faculty that are seeing our faces. And we're creating that space for others to be able to reflect on what it means for them to be part of this culture and how it could kind of build a legacy going from here on out. So the first question that I have for you all is, what is one thing that you love about your culture? So I'll open the floor to anybody who wants to start that.
I love most about my culture, I think, is because I'm Mexican. I love the bright colors everywhere and everything. Everything is, I don't want to say loud, but everything is just so loud and beautiful.
It definitely is loud sometimes. I myself am Mexican too. I'll let the other students go before I say something myself.
All right, so what I love the most about my culture is especially like the music, that we got like over there in Cuba. It's like it's just a mix of like African and this Latino, like creative something else like salsa, like all these rhythms that is just so great. I love the music over there.
I think for me, it's the food. Coming from a Mexican background, also like the food is just delicious, and I just had this thing where I just connect food with a certain memory. So if I eat something, it'll just remember my childhood, and it was like it'll be so perfect.
Okay, to jump off of Jennifer and Alex, from the Mexican background, it's loud. I think it is. My family is, personally, and they're big. So big and loud would be what I connect to culture and family.
That's awesome. And I can definitely identify with all of those. I think thinking about our roots, right? All of this kind of rich culture that we have that's based wherever you are from in Latin America, right? It's not just like people talk about race, right? But it's not necessarily one race. There is so much kind of mixture that has happened over the centuries. Diego specifically mentioned, right, some Afro roots that are there in Cuba. That's amazing because those Afro roots are also in Mexico. And even just thinking about like the indigenous background that I personally like value so much in my own family and my own ancestry. It's so beautiful to think about what we have now has come from this kind of not monolithic background that we all come from. So one thing that I love about our culture is definitely food, right? That's amazing to me. But I think also this sense of family. I think this sense of like togetherness. I think when I meet people from other cultures, for example, when I first came to the States, one of the first things that I noticed that was different is when my family or when even my mom or someone in my family met with somebody else, like after a while, they're like, oh, how's your family? That's the first question you ask. Versus other people might say, how are you? Right? And I think that sense of togetherness is so rich in our culture as well. All right, so the second question that I have here is, tell me about a time when you felt your culture and your whole self was being appreciated, celebrated, or embraced. What made you feel that way?
I'm going to start this one. I thought about it when I saw the question. So there was one time when I used to live in Miami. They used to do, or they still do it. This year they couldn't do it, but they do a carnival. It's called like a Carnaval de la Calle Ocho,
Oh, yeah.
and it's just like everybody's there. For you get like Colombians, Cubans, from all Latin America, but especially the Cubans that you see there. Like so much like you think like you're in a Cuban carnival. Like party all day, the food. You feel so like I felt so Cuban that day being outside of my country that it was the best.
That's amazing. Yeah, definitely. What about the other students that I have here?
For me, it was honestly maybe like 10 years ago. Um, it was here at Springs Preserve, and I had never seen anybody celebrate Dia de los Muertos like properly. So when we went, there was altars and like dancing and music and food and face painting, and I think that's the first day that I was like, oh my God, like people really actually care about Dia de los Muertos, not just because it's a trend.
Like Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah.
How about Alex or Vanessa?
I think going off from Jennifer's point of view, same thing with Dia de los Muertos. Like when I saw like the altares at Springs Preserve, I'm like, something so accurately represented about my culture is being embraced in a place that's far away from home. And yeah, they celebrate Cinco de Mayo here, but like they also say it's Independence Day. I'm like, no, Independence Day.
How about yourself, Vanessa?
Okay, to segue from El Día de los Muertos, in prompt at our little iglesia, the little church that we have, the Catholic church, we always have like the festival for la Virgen de Guadalupe, and that's like the one time that I didn't feel that I was left out or anything, because todas las otras, in Spanish doesn't come out, at school would look like me, they would dress like me, they would bring in students and stuff from Vegas, and they would help us with the danza, and they would help us set up, and then there was always flowers, and then they would have the American flag and the Mexican flag, so it felt identity for both. I felt that I belonged there. In contrast, when they have like other festivals, they didn't include the Mexican flag, so I would feel more included in this one, and I would be participating in the danzas, and then like the feather thing and the bead thing, and waking up before in the morning, and then doing the mañanitas.
That's amazing. Yes, absolutely. And I agree with all of these. I think for me, thinking back, it was probably back in high school when even then I felt like some differences between myself and others. But one of the things that I really remember thinking back and feeling like so very like Mexican was attending the danzas folclóricas, so folk dancing, right, for the Mexican kind of culture. And they had the girls with all these beautiful dresses and the mariachi band and everything like that. And I saw that being like a huge event on campus. It wasn't just like my community doing it or like my family doing it or even like my church or anything like that, but it was like something that I saw I was being reflected in within education. And then later on, I think when I went to college and beyond, um, there were very few moments actually, to be honest, where I felt like, wow, my culture is being appreciated and my culture is being honored and celebrated. Other than obviously like the frat parties for Cinco de Mayo, which did not, really reflect at all the way that I felt about my culture. But I definitely felt like, okay, that's the only time I see anything about Mexicans, but it's not in the way that I would like to be kind of quote unquote celebrated. And I think that's important. And I think that also shines light on this particular event, El Mes de Mi Gente. And the fact that we've taken time to not only include that at NSC, but make it kind of this inaugural celebration of the Hispanic Heritage Month. All right, next question. So the next question that I have here is, I'm guessing most of you, as I, are very proud of our culture and our roots since we are on this panel. But has this always been the case? Or has there been a journey to get to this point of being so proud of your own identity?
I start.
Okay.
So every time that I met someone like at work or anything like that, I always have to mention I'm Cuban. I don't know if that's something that I have, but I always mention my country, and I have it like all over. I have my flag like it's in my room, all of that. And yeah, I don't know why. Since I was born, I don't know because I grew up in Cuba, and that's a communist country, so they teach you a lot of the Cuban, you're Cuban, you're Cuban, you know. And look back at the people that built my country. I'm not talking about like Castro or anything, but my team, myself, those kind of people, they show you like the Cuban pride. And I always take that with me. They will call them ambitious. So every time that I don't know, when I make a song or anything, I always emphasize that I'm Cuban, like I got that really deep in me, and it's always been like that since I was born. I said there's a reason that I was born in Cuba. I don't know what it is yet, but there's a reason that I was born there, so I always take it like really deep.
That's amazing. I love it.
Well, for me, I know growing up, it was a little bit of a struggle. I think mostly because we were, from like my parents had just got here from Mexico, so we were living in like the low income areas and stuff like that. And I never wanted to be seen as like the poor little Mexican girl that like her parents just got here. So I think for a long time, I don't want to say it was like I was ashamed, but it was definitely like try to hide it a little bit more because I didn't want people to think less of me because of where I come from.
What about yourself, Alex?
It kind of goes with Jennifer's story. When my family and I came here to the States, we immediately felt like the oppression that the country had against other kind of people. So to feel that in school, as soon as I enrolled into elementary school, and like getting that from people that look like me, I like immediately just started to like go into like a simulate mode. Like I have to act American. I have to do whatever it takes to be like American because that's the only way I'm gonna get to survive and get somewhere in life. And I actually didn't break that bond or that association until I got into my junior year in high school, where I was like, yeah, this is just gotta stop. Like I'm proud of being Mexican. Like I'm proud of being undocumented. I'm proud of being Chicano. Like this just has to stop. And I just have to do whatever it takes so that way my image doesn't get hurt. And so that way people don't feel that oppression that I felt.
Absolutely. And I can totally relate to those two. How about yourself, Vanessa?
Similarly to Jennifer and Alex, but again with Diego, my parents always told me, you are Mexican American. Mexican always will come first. You were born from us, even though you were born here. You cannot erase where you come from or your familia. So I was always connected to my culture and them because they don't speak English, so I know fluent Spanish, and I would always speak it as soon as I can. I'm more comfortable in that language. And then when we moved to Pahrump, which is a small rural town, I really felt it because there wasn't any other kids that were like me in kindergarten. They didn't look like me. They didn't talk like me. They didn't dress like me. So I felt casted out and they would bully me. So I struggled, but I wanted to continue it, and it did continue until middle school and high school when they got rougher. And then the worst of it was in high school during the election, the last election year. That was when it was harder, but I persisted. And then after it's okay for me to be connected to my Mexicality. Like, you can't make me feel any less because I've been through it all.
Absolutely. And I think these things are so powerful to share with others because I myself, I'm also an immigrant. And I also remember honestly feeling some of that shame. My mom was a farm worker. And I initially, when I came to the States, we moved to Central California in the Valley. My siblings were farm workers. I was a little kid. But I remember, I mean, I'm not that old and I don't feel that old. But I remember getting detention for speaking in Spanish and being punished at school for speaking in Spanish. Like, that's bad. You need to be American. We speak English here. And going through that kind of experience really taught me, like, I cannot be the way that I truly am if I want to be valued as any other kid in this classroom. I cannot be who I truly am if I want to be a professor, right? How many Latino, Latina professors, Chicanx, Chicano, Chicana professors have you had? And one of the things that really stuck with me one time was after teaching a neuroscience class, and I might have shared this with some of you because you've been my students, one student came up to me at the end of class, at the end of the entire quarter, and they told me, you know, you've been the first Latina to teach me science. And that was just like an eye opener for me because even though I knew that, I really hadn't sat down to think about it. Like, wow, that's actually true for most people. If I think back to who are all my biology teachers, who were my chemistry teachers, who were my neuroscience teachers, who were all of my science teachers, it really was not Latinos, Latinx, or anybody that looked like me. It was typically a white male, to be honest. So thinking about, you know, what this journey means to me, it really means the fact that I can be open about it now. Although when I was a kid, I was afraid to speak Spanish in school. And I didn't honestly feel proud to be an immigrant or proud to be a Mexican until later on when I learned the value behind my differences. So thank you all for being very vulnerable and sharing those experiences here. All right, we'll move on to the next question. So the next question that I have here is on intersectionality. So really thinking about what are the multiple and complex identities that you take on as your individual self. How does your Latinx or Chicanx, if that's how you identify, or Hispanic, if that's how you identify, how does that play into other aspects of your self-identity? And I think I'll kind of start with that one myself so you can kind of see what I mean. So for me, you know, thinking about who I am, I identify as Mexican. I actually purposely do not identify as Chicanx or Chicana because I was not born here. I was kind of raised here, right? But my childhood is really in Mexico, and I don't think I can let that go. And I feel that if I say I'm Chicana, I feel like I'm letting some of that go. I identify I'm an immigrant, right? I'm a first generation college student. And aside from that, yes, if I was in a group of people that were not Latinos, I would say, yes, I'm Latina. So how do all of those play into each other, and how do they all kind of give me a sense of identity? And really the way that I think about it is, those are just like different aspects of myself, and they overlap a lot. And I think there are obviously some misconceptions that come from that, meaning a lot of people think that a lot of Latinos may be immigrants, or they might think that a lot of immigrants are first generation students, and those are not necessarily true. But I think thinking primarily of like, I am a Mexican, I think that's really the one that stands out to me the most. And yes, I am a first generation student. And at the same time, I'm not forgetting the fact that I'm an immigrant. And at one point, I was also undocumented. So all of these things really, I think, carry with themselves like very harsh realities, right? The fact that if you are undocumented, you're going to go through some struggles then if you are not. um, Sorry, and then part of that is like being able to take kind of the silver lining from each of those identities, but I never let any of them go. So I don't know what your thoughts on are, or what your identities, I guess, that you feel like you carry with yourself as part of who you are.
Well, I feel like this is like a question that we get a lot the first day of class, like when the
What
introduce
are you?
yourself. Yeah.
Where are you really from?
Yeah. So, what I always say is that I'm Mexican, first generation immigrant, pretty much the same things you just said. But all of those, like identifying as all of those, I feel puts like a sort of weight on my shoulders. Like, I feel like I have to be the one to at least be the first to go to college, and I have to be the first to graduate, and I have to be the first to get a good job and make it in America because my parents sacrificed so much, and I have to be a like a role model for my siblings. So like identifying as that is very stressful.
Absolutely.
I think going off Jennifer also, like being a first generation student, it's already hard enough. Like you have to pretty much put yourself like on the kind of like a spotlight to like be sure to let people know that you can make it and anything is possible, regardless of your academic struggles or any kind of barriers you have in life. Um, it's it is really hard because no there's no path, at least in my perspective, there's no path that's like already planned. Like there's always going to be some bumps in the road, and honestly, when you find yourself a role model, like you put yourself like that's where you want to be, but you don't know how to follow that path. So as a first generation college student, you're pretty much kind of forced to like navigate certain ways by yourself because no one was there to help you. Like you have sources, you have support system, but like in your family, like literally people just like don't understand what college life is like, and you just have to pave the way for previous generations, especially like if you don't have children or if you have siblings, like you have to like pave a way for them to be like, hey, this is sort of kind of what you do, but if you want to follow me, it's cool. If not, we can work something out. So I think that's my perspective of first generation college student. Now, as a Chicano, there was been some misconceptions in my family about being Chicano because where I'm from, at least from the little town I'm from, Chicanos are more like people who come to the United States and they think they just make it, they're successful, and they just forget about their family that they left behind. So when I learned more about the Chicano and the Chicano movement, it was much more of a, we all as humans, we all have some sort of common struggle. And in order for that, we have to fight just to like put ourselves out there. You don't have to be like a Mexican or you don't have to identify like a Mexican American. Like as long as you have a common goal and a common fight, you're considered as Chicana because if you think about it, Chicano is a Nahuatl word that means people from the earth. So in a way, we're all a community. We're all connected. And I didn't really identify as Chicano until I got to college when I learned about the Chicano movement. So I took on that identity, not because of my Mexicanness or my Mexican descent, but more because I want to be an advocate for the people and I want to like empower those so that way they don't feel as vulnerable as me because I was in a very vulnerable state when I was in high school where I was undocumented. Like I didn't know what to do. Like I'm undocumented. Like I don't even know if I can go to college. I don't even know if that's a thing for me. But then, my mom being Mexican be like, no, mijo, you gotta go. You gotta go to college. Like, okay, then I guess I'll go to college. And I'm really thankful for her to like just push me like that because if I wasn't for college, if it wasn't for her push, like I didn't even know what to do. I'll probably be lost.
To me, just like Jennifer and Alex said, there's a lot of weight on you when you are first generation student. Like you have to study, you have to go to college. Like your family, like you may have dreams and stuff, and but they want you to go to college. They want you to be, I don't know, a lawyer, a doctor. I studied business, and my dad is like, "Oh, you still work in a casino?" I'm like, "No, I don't have that mindset." Since I been, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I had the same mindset. I'm like, I'm a study business, all right, but I got a goal in my life, which is to make my people, make my people like they used to be, before what happened to my country, and like it's always been like I want to make my people proud, like I don't want to like because every time people think about Cubans, they go like, oh, communists, oh, Castro, like I don't like people to think about that because that's the bad side of Cuba, like there's a lot of deaths and a lot of like injustices that happen because of that. So when I want to people when they think about Cuba, they be like, oh, beautiful island, like music, food, all of that, and it's really hard to make people understand, like I'm not gonna be like your normal businessman or I'm not gonna be your normal thing, like it's really hard to make, especially your family, to make it like understand that we're like not all the same. I know you sacrificed a lot. My dad came in a boat, like to Mexico and then to here. He like it was a lot, but still, like I know what I'm gonna be in life, but it may not be what he wanted or what my mama wanted, but it's really hard, like at the same time to do that with your family, not thinking on that. It's they understand that when you make it, but that takes a lot of years to make what I want. And I think, yeah, like it's really hard to make people understand like your identity, like you identify yourself with your people, but you don't do it like the normal way. You're gonna take another alternative. So that's how I do it.
Absolutely. And I think there's parts of each of those stories that I think resonates with all of us. How about yourself, Vanessa?
Looking at my identity from in this context, it would still be Mexicana, Americana, Chicana, because that's what my mom has always told me and what resonated with me, even through all the struggles that they had because of them coming here and what we faced when we moved, especially. Like, jumping back to what you said, where you weren't allowed to speak. And when I was like 6, they passed a law in the town of Prampanay County where it was illegal to speak Spanish in public places, and I was terrified of my parents being taken at any moment for me calling them, for doing anything. And he and my mom and dad don't speak it fluently in English to not depend on it. It's like a cry with both because I want to be the example of them bringing their fruits here and it growing, and I being something for them, because no matter what job either of them work at, they do it as best they can and they do it better than expected. So if they can do anything better, I can do it better and I have to work harder for them and for my future examples. For now, I have a little brother. Before I didn't. I was an only child, but now he's 4. So I have to be the example for him to make it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So I see some commonalities here, right? I feel one of the things that we do is we carry the weight of our family's dreams on our shoulders. We feel like we have to accomplish those dreams that our previous, either our parents or caregivers or siblings were not able to. Or if we're like the first, we have those following behind us. And I think that goes back, I think, to speaking of this really familia culture in the Latinx community. But I think it also, what I see is informs each of your drives, each of your motivations to continue in higher education, to go to college, right? Being in a culture like this kind of motivates you to do that and serves as one of those things that you can get inspiration from. So thank you again for sharing those really intimate stories that I really appreciate. The next question that I have here is, looking back at your educational path, so all the time that you've been in school, what has been a shining moment for you?
For me, it might not seem like a big deal, but thinking back, to me it was. So like we grew up in like low income neighborhoods and things like that. So when high school came around, I decided to apply to a magnet program with a bunch of my friends. So we were like, oh yeah, we can all go to the same school, like we're gonna be close, yeah, whatever. But all of my friends didn't get in and I was the only one that got in. So I started at a new school with no friends, not knowing anybody. And it got so stressful to the point where I wanted to give up because the teachers expected a lot of you because they knew you were smart because you got in. And I didn't believe that. So when I told my mom I wanted to quit that school and I wanted to go back to like my public school and I didn't want to be there anymore, and she was like, no, you're going to stay there because you got in. There's only like 100 kids in each class. You got in, you're going to stick this out and you're going to go there and I'm not moving you. So then I purposely started failing my classes so that I would get kicked out. But then one of my teachers, like, she set up a meeting with me or whatever, and she told me like, what's wrong with you, like what are you doing? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, you're really smart, like why are you trying to throw this away? And that like triggered me, I guess, to be like, oh my god, there's people out there that actually think I could do this.
That's an awesome story. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad that that teacher talked to you, and I'm glad that you're here. What about other stories? Any other times where in your education you've been maybe at a crossroads or at a place where you had to make a decision or in a tough spot, and you went through it and you did it maybe not in the easiest way, but you went through it and now you're here. Anything else that you feel was a shining moment in your education?
Yes, I got one when I came from Miami to Las Vegas. It was really hard because over there, everybody spoke Spanish. You know, it's a lot of Cuban, Latinos, and I felt comfortable. But when I got here to Las Vegas, nobody, especially middle school, it's 8th grade, nobody spoke Spanish. And you know, back in middle school, all the kids they can be Latinos, or you know, and they wouldn't speak Spanish. You know, they'll be like, no, I'm not Maxi, I'm Mary," and it hurt really much because I didn't spoke English. And that year, that 8th grade, I had to, with the little English that I had, the basic English, just talk to people and make my way through that year. And it was really hard. It was one teacher that really helped me. I don't remember her name as much. It was Miss Young, something like that. But we started reading The Giver, and she got it for me in Spanish, so I could read it. and it really helped me. That book really helped me, and she really helped me a lot. And all the teachers really were there for me. But I was alone that year. I didn't have almost no friends. I think that was the year that I really saw like I can't do it on my own. Like be alone. It's not just people. I need people, the other people, to feel like good. No, I feel good when I'm by myself. I think better. All that. And it was really helpful for those teachers to be there with me and be like, okay, Diego, you can do this. Like with just basic English that I have back there, it really helped me to like go to high school and the next year get out of the EL program and start normal classes, and don't be like, oh, no, don't worry about him. Like I think that back in high school, a lot of teachers, they'll be like, oh, he's an EL student, like, whatever. But I show like in my first year, I get out of that program. And I love the people because, my friends and the teachers are really nice, but it really helped to be like, okay, if I could do this, like I know my kid, like with all my Q and thing, and I could do it, I can do anything, like, cause it was really hard at the beginning. I cry and stuff because I didn't have like friends, because I didn't know English. But then I make it, and by myself, I started, okay, I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna learn English, but I'm gonna still be me, so yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I totally see myself in you, Diego. It made me remember when I moved here to the States. And I remember one of my biggest fears as a kid, it was in elementary too, was what am I going to do when I go to school because I don't know the language? What am I going to do when kids start talking to me or the teacher starts talking to me and I don't know what they're saying? So I remember those fears, and I remember being in class or being in the playground at recess, and I remember someone like trying to be my friend, but they're speaking in English, so I didn't know what to say. I was so afraid. I would just go and hide sometimes. I would literally go and hide like where no kids were hanging out, or I would go and hide in the bathroom because I was so afraid of having that interaction where I wouldn't be able to communicate, and my language was not the language that was being spoken. So I totally understand that. Thank you for sharing. How about Alex or Vanessa?
Okay.
So I think for me, like I already said it before, being a first-gen student is already hard enough, and it didn't really hit me about being a first gen until I was about to graduate high school, or I was like not just the only person to attend college, but also the first one to graduate high school. I think like the highest level of education anyone in my family has ever received was like a ninth or 10th grade. And I was the only one in the whole family that was getting a diploma. I was like, whoa, this is getting serious now. And when just getting into college, like I never thought I could make it. Being undocumented and just think like the whole world is gonna collapse on you, it's just like a whole new different kind of stress. Like you don't know how you're gonna pay for college when you're undocumented. So like you can't work, how can you pay for school? So you kind of get a crossroads there. And because no one in your family knows about college, like, okay, so what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pay for stuff. How am I gonna do my things in college? So like for me, just like getting through that, like the first step, it was already an accomplishment because it just changed my mindset to be like, okay, so I know I can do this. So now I have to keep on pushing because like Vanessa said, like you have to do things better. Like you have to work harder because you are right now at disadvantage. But like you have to prove to people that you are not going to be at disadvantage forever. Like you have to keep on moving, you have to keep on pushing, keep on doing better, so that way you can have a better life, not just for you, but for the benefit of your family.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And yourself, Vanessa?
Looking back at it, it would be the end of senior year, like where you're done, but you're not done, so you're going through like the preliminary. During the scholarship award ceremony, I told my mom, I'm probably gonna get like one because, a ver, como ya sabemos, es un pueblito americano. I ended up walking away with the most awards that night, and my mom was just crying. And then getting to do, I didn't get to decorate my cap for my actual walk, but then I got to participate in the Hispanic Educators Association of Nevada, the high school one. I didn't know that was a thing. And I got to walk with all the awards and all the stalls. And it was really exciting in a sense to see all of the graduates that looked like me, that were also decorated, and then get to have that second walk so that my mom could see me decorated with the cap that she made for me. That would probably be it, because that was the last like memory I have before going to college. Like, okay, you can do that again for her. You can give her and your father that joy. You can be the example.
Wow, thank you. Congratulations to all of you. Those are all tough situations. And I think one of the questions I had actually as a follow-up was what is one of your struggles? But I think each of you have taken those struggles and turned them into shining moments. And I think that's really beautiful and fascinating. And I can identify with each of your stories. Vanessa, you mentioned like not getting scholarships or thinking that you're not going to because of the population around you. You talk about, you know, finally graduating, but I say like you all are here at NSC, you're all in college, you've made it this far. That itself is a testament to your dedication, right? To your determination, to your ability to go through struggle and persist. So congratulations to you all. I also remember, I think one of my one of my shining moments is probably when well, I think it's double. It's one when I was accepted into a PhD program, and the second when I graduated the PhD program. I think some of you mentioned thinking like, you know, I'm not gonna get it. I'm not that smart, or thinking like, I don't want to be in this school because there's nobody like me, or thinking I'm not gonna make it. There's no way. I will be completely honest with you. I think a lot of graduate students, regardless of their culture, think that. But I think I specifically really thought that. And I remember failing classes in graduate school. I remember being on probation to be kicked out of graduate school. So getting to the end, and I attended the Latino graduation, and I remember feeling so proud at that time, like feeling like, oh my goodness, all of those hard times that I went through are worth it because now I'm here. And if someone had told me my first year in college, these are all the things that are coming up to for you to get a PhD or for you to even get your bachelor's, I don't think I would have done it. I would have thought to myself, there's no way I can get through that. And I think we always surprise ourselves with the persistence that we're able to have through hard times. So thank you for sharing those. Um, all right, so I will go ahead and go to kind of a follow-up question to that. I was going to talk about maybe some college and the challenges that college brings up. But there are some obviously unique challenges that we face coming from the culture that we do or that we identify with. Where do you draw inspiration to persevere? What makes you think like I need to keep going, or I can keep going, or I just need to do this?
I want to start with that one really quick. I got three things that inspire me the most in my life that are like I cannot stop until I make it. So first is my family. I want them to be like in the best position that I could get them to. I always tell my family, no matter what happened to me, I don't know what's gonna happen to me like 10 years from now, but I'm gonna do everything possible so you guys are comfortable. My mom, my dad, my brothers. I want to be a role model for my brothers to be like, okay, my brother can make it, coming from where he comes and all of that. I can make it. You can, and I told my brothers, you can be president if you want to. You're American. You can be president of the United States. Anybody could. And second is my country. I always think of my country. I don't want to see it like it is. I always tell people, you're going to see Cuba in 20 years from now and be like, Diego was in there. You don't know how, because I never told anybody, but he was involved in the creation of what it used to be Cuba. Like you put Cuba in Google, Cuba in the 1950s, you're going to see something way different than now. and cherish my dreams. You know, my dreams inspire me to like do everything. I told my mom, my mom's like, you go to sleep so late, and I go to sleep so late so you guys can have a nice life in the future. You know, like I'm working, you know, like you say, hustling. I may do it at night, but that's how I function. So those are the three things that inspire the most to be like, I cannot back down now. You know, I have to keep going.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those.
For me, I think I agree with Diego. I think family always comes first. So I want to also make my family comfortable. I want to live in a big house where like my mom could have her own room in my house because she's not gonna go anywhere, or like my little brother, my sister, you know, like that. But other than that, honestly, it might seem selfish, but I think it's just myself. Like I've pushed myself to get here, so why am I going to stop now? Like I have to get to where I'm going, and if I can't get there, I have to figure out plan B, and if plan B doesn't work out, I have to figure out a plan C, and all the way till we get to Z, because like this is hard. So I'm not going to throw it away.
Yeah, I completely agree. Vanessa or Alex, any of you want to share?
Well, I think it's just going off from Jennifer and Diego about family. Like, make sure that your family, yeah, is proud of your accomplishments. I know that my mom, ever since I went to college, she's always telling me, so like, where are you going to graduate? You can take me to Venice. I'm like, Venice Beach or Venice, Italy? Like, no, I want to go to Venice, Italy. I'm like, oh, wait, hold up. Let me just graduate first, and then we'll talk about that trip. Because ever since I was a little kid, like my priority was just my family. Like, I have to make sure that my family is well taken care of. Have to make sure that my family does not go into any struggles, because I can already see my mom like putting herself like with hard general labor, waking up at like 4 or 3 in the morning just to like earn barely minimum wage. Like that's a hardworking woman that I adore, and she's my idol. And just because I saw her work so hard, like I want to be sure that I can give her the life that she deserves through my accomplishments, even if it means maybe going back to Mexico and living some hacienda, or just like giving her like a little terreno here and make sure to call her home. Um, because my family has always, my mom especially, she has always been a fighter, and I guess I learned that from her, so that to be sure to be proud of who I am and don't let nobody tell me otherwise.
Thank you for sharing that, Alex. How about yourself, Vanessa?
Um, let's see. The biggest challenges would probably be the examples of my dad and my mom and the rest of my family a little struggled. I've seen my dad pretty much get up every day at 4:30 in the morning, and I don't see him till like 11 at night. And he does this every single day. And it doesn't matter if he's hurt, if he's not hurt. And then whenever he does see me, he does little gestures. Like he sees me doing homework, and he's like, quemándote las pestañas. So like burning your eyelashes because it's like 11 at night. And he's just coming home, and I'm like, and he's like, basically, ya acabé de trabajar, pero tú sigues trabajando. Like he's just got done, but you're still going. And I'm like, pues, tiene que dar fruto un día. So he's my greatest, that I need to make him happy because he gives everything. His expression to me is, yo me parto el lomo para que el tuyo esté entero. So like, I'll break my back so that yours is whole. And he does it for me, and that he'll do it for my brother. And he's like, when you're not here, you need to take care of your brother and your mom. Or if I'm not here, so back and forth. It's for them and for what they did and what they continue to do, because they still put up with me this long.
Thank you so much. I think we all have a sense of that, right? seeing how hard our parents have worked or other caretakers have worked or how other family members have made a sacrifice. And I think that's definitely one piece of where we draw inspiration from. I think it's the same thing for me personally, like thinking back at what made me go through college and even think about graduate school, because honestly, I'm the only person in my family that has a college degree. I'm the only woman in my family that has a high school degree. My mom learned to read and write when she was an adult. So how did I get through all of that? I don't know. But it's definitely, you know, the fact that I can look back and see all the sacrifice that my mom has made, or thinking of the future for my own family and making them proud. And not just that, like, how could I not, right? How could I be placed in a situation where I can get through education when, for example, my older siblings didn't have that chance? How could I not take advantage of that opportunity and let it by the wayside? So thank you all for sharing where you get inspiration from. And then to go ahead and conclude our little chat, I wanted to ask this question just because I think it's important to think about our future and our dreams. And I think you all have that if you're here right now. But what do you look forward to in your future? How do you see yourself in 10 years? Or how do you want to see yourself in 10 years? And this doesn't even have to be in 10 years. It could be, you know, what do you look forward to in the next year? What do you look forward to in the future, basically?
I can answer that first. I think for me, what I look forward to the most at this moment right now is to go to grad school. Like I've been preparing myself for 5 years to go to graduate school, and having that imposter syndrome, like I'm probably not gonna make it. Probably not gonna make it, but like doesn't mean I can stop trying. Like I really, really want that experience of being in graduate school and like earning my first college degree, and not only to use that knowledge that I've gained in my educational career to change this country's society, but also the society of my country. Right now, my country is facing a lot of political conflicts, and ever since I was little, was like a witness of those kind of like drug trafficking wars, and like it's kind of hard to like take that to heart, and like having that in your memory about your home country, and you just come here where like everything's not all nice, but like better than it was back there. So my goal was ultimately like go back to my country and like change things, because there needs to be change, and people were just afraid of that because they don't know the outcomes. And I'm like, it's okay to be afraid. Like outcomes, they're just not things that are expected. Like they might not always be a nice, but they can always be something for the better. So to apply all of my knowledge that I've gained in graduate school, hopefully, and in my college career, and to be able to apply it to change my country, I think that would just be like a dream come true.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay, well, for myself, the reason I'm in college is because, like a lot of people, I want to be a doctor. More specifically, I want to be a trauma surgeon. So, what helps me a lot is seeing myself in the like visualizing myself in the future, working in the ER, like getting a patient from an ambulance and like rushing them to the ER and starting, you know, procedures and stuff like that. I think visualizing that makes it feel more real and more possible for me. So hopefully that's where I end up, because that's a lot of manifestation.
I believe. How about Diego or Vanessa? Where do you see yourself, or how do you see yourself? What do you look forward to in the future?
Vanessa can start if she wants.
Okay, I got called out. I wasn't ready. To manifest, it would be to hopefully be done with undergrad and working in the residency program for an I want to work at a hospital here in Las Vegas or eventually get the doctorate and build a more bilingual friendly clinic in rural areas because I have seen, especially I had the interaction with my dad when he was hurt, there was not an appropriate level of patient to patient care in other languages that is not really addressed in many medical fields. I want to address this issue nationwide, hopefully, once I have the appropriate level of education to get it moving, because psychologically there can be an improvement for patient care due to language barriers. So I want to start maybe the movement for that and in the future and not have to keep making my dad break his back for me. So now that he can focus on breaking his back for my little brother, would be the second in the future that I see.
I think for me it is I do music as you can see with the panels and everything. And my thing is like do good music that inspire people. I don't want to do like that music that in 5 years, 2 years it dies and people don't remember you know. I want to do music that people remember even when I'm gone. People will still listen to it and kids my age like I am right now, they will get inspired and be like, okay, I can make it too, you know? Because I didn't have that inspiration from some people. My inspiration used to be gangsters like Michael Corleone, you know, like that's not an inspiration, you know, be inspired for that. But when I start seeing other cultures, you know, music, I listen to a lot of Mexican music, you know, you see me like this, but I listen to Los Tucanes de Tijuana. I listen to a lot of Mexican music. And yeah, I want my music, you know, like the future is just see me doing music and make music that people won't forget about.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So that concludes our panel. Is there any last message or any other thing that you would like to say for any student that might be watching this, for any faculty member that might be watching this, or even a person from the community that may be watching this?
Ponte las pilas, midterms are coming.
Wow.
Get with the program. Midterms are coming.
Wow, I needed that one.
Honestly, yeah. Yeah.
Anything else?
I would just want to say that no matter how hard it seems right now, it's better to get it done now than try to get it done later because you're already here, so don't put it off.
I totally agree. I
And you
need
guys
that.
tell them that no,
Go ahead, Diego. Sorry.
I just want to say that, you know, like anything that you think on, you can be. It don't matter what it is in this life, you can be anything you want to be. You want to be, you know, anything you can be. So I just want to say that.
Yeah. Anything, Alex, or no?
Oh, I have a lot. Well, my main ones are like, don't procrastinate as much. Like self care is important, but like there's a limit to like your procrastination level. So at least to like try to balance that out. And I guess my other one would be, um, just gotta keep working harder. Like be sure to seek out to your support system. Be sure to like find those resources. Be sure to ask people. Like I wish I was told this when I was in high school or middle school or elementary school. Like there's no such thing as a dumb question. Just ask. It's okay to ask. And yeah, just like at least try to be better every day.
Thank you. I think you guys said it all. The only thing I would add is never forget where you came from, right? Be proud of your culture, be proud of your roots. It's okay to do that, no matter what level you're at. So thank you all for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.